Today in the greenhouse I've got a couple trees that I want to show you, for one, and two, a couple others that I'm going to start working on. I've been real busy planting a lot of trees, getting things ready to go before they've actually started to, the deciduous trees started to break bud and show leaves. I mean, I've got some really beautiful trees, larches that are getting ready to, well, some of them actually have already broken and have started to push out their new growth for the year. All the other trees are coming to life, or reinvigorating themselves, I should say. A lot of greenery, and I've just been real busy trying to stay ahead of the game and repot as appropriate, wire where needed. And it's been a while since I made a video, so I figured I'd do a little update to show you guys where we're at. It's a crummy day outside. It's been raining pretty hard all week, actually. And it's kind of gloomy, so the lighting in here isn't that great. But as you can see, for the past several weeks I've actually had all the shades drawn, letting in all the natural light to get these guys to wake up. The greenhouse sits on average every day between 60 and 70 degrees. In the evenings it gets down to the 50s, but it hasn't gotten much lower than that. So I've been fairly fortunate to keep everybody happy in here. I turn the fans on, open the doors, and let the air flow through, and then if it's really nice and it hasn't been raining or isn't going to be thunderstorming, I'll take them all outside and work all the trees out so that they're getting all the natural sun they can with some fresh air. But yeah, so let's get it started. I've got a couple updates for you. Got a buddy of mine, a couple of his trees that are here. One of them we worked on a few weeks back, but I wanted to give you guys a video update. I posted some stuff under my blog on my webpage with just some snapshots from a couple weeks ago when we wired this guy up. This is probably a 10-year-old Green Mound Juniper here that you can see probably just off frame. But we did some pretty heavy branch movement on this cascade. The pot that he put it in is really a large, very nice pot, but it's probably too big for the tree at this stage. But because this is what we want it to grow into, we're leaving it in this pot. And Keith, my friend, has done a very good job of maintaining this tree, keeping it happy and healthy, letting it grow naturally to get some real good, strong shoots out of it. And then later on this year, we'll start to prune it back a bit, and he'll probably wire it. But we wanted to create some movement in the trunk because it does have a good taper, a good angle on this branch here. But we wanted to get some more movement out of it, so it wasn't just a straight shot or straight arm. So I'm going to adjust the camera here in a second, show you guys kind of a little 360 zoom of this guy on the wheel that I've got. And then another tree coming up in a future episode will be this Shimpaku that is probably a 30-year-old tree. Last year he did an air layer on part of this tree, and it's doing very well. But this is going to be a slant style, probably in some sort of primitive or concrete pot later on down the road this year. Hopefully within the next coming, the repotting will probably be this within a couple weeks this spring. The styling of it will have to be, later on down the road, depending on the health and recovery of the tree. But this is a great specimen. We picked these up from another local bonsai enthusiast who was going out of business, and so I think we have 3 or 4 of them that we're going to be working on collectively together. So anyhow, with that being said, I'll show you these two here, and then some of my collection that's behind me here, some of the new growth that's started to come out on these trees, and then some future plans maybe for down the road. And then I'd love to hear any of you guys' feedback, so feel free to post any comments, or if you have any questions, reach out to me. I've got my email up on the website, highdesertbonsai.com. Happy to answer any questions you have, if you have any, or if you want to see things in particular, just let me know. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to adjust over the focus to this guy, and I'll be right back. This is my buddy Keith's Green Mound Juniper. Pretty nice specimen. It's got a lot of potential, some really nice pad development that he can work through. Really good, strong growth, healthy trunk, just a good overall tree to start off with. But what we were concerned about, and I know you guys can see this in camera, is this nice long shoot of bamboo that we used here. What we had before was just kind of some simple growth here, which is still here and maintained. A good pad or branch for rear development here for another pad. So one here, one here, one in the very back. Good potential for some top movement here, and then some on the sides. And then we had this one long straight shot that came down to about here, and there was really nothing going on there. It was really plain Jane. Very strong, very pretty, but it needed to have some movement. So as you can see, what we did, instead of going for a really heavy gauge wire or multiple wires when we worked on this tree, we opted to use some nursery, some florist tape, nursery tape, and this bamboo. And what we did is we attached the tree at the top, anchored it in. So we took a piece of bonsai wire, drilled a hole up here in the top of the bamboo, and put the wire and anchored it, using it temporarily, to the trunk of the tree in the back. And then once that was secured and wasn't going to move and flop it around on us, we used the nurseryman's tape and wrapped that and secured that to this main trunk. That allowed us to take then the trunk down here or up here and start to bend the branch back in and create some sort of an S, or get the curve that we wanted. And then we anchored along the way with nurseryman's tape at the top and at the very bottom. Prior to doing that, we thinned out the tree a little bit, figured out where we wanted the bends to go and how we wanted the branch structure to look, and removed the branches that were going to be on the inside of curves or were overlapping, and then moved them in and figured out, you know, what looked best. Anchored it, repositioned it a couple times, and here you have it. So with that being said, I'll just kind of give you a 360 of this real quick, and you can kind of look at it. But this tree has a lot of potential to be very nice, and I think the idea is to show this probably 2 or 3 years at our local bonsai exhibition. But yeah, very nice specimen. One thing you might notice in a lot of the trees, especially the ones that I work on, it's a habit, and I'm a creature of habit, is to take these. You know, I go to a craft store and I get you know, these popsicle sticks, and I mark them every time I do something in one of my trees, and I just stick it in the side of the pot so that I know what has happened with my tree, just at a quick glance. When the last time I did whatever major thing to my tree. Because I have quite a few, or maybe working on somebody else's, it's just a good idea, a good reference point. You know, with my work, I do travel a bit, and so it's nice to also let other folks know, especially if they're friends of mine that are enthusiasts, to know what's happened to my tree recently, and they can look at a moment's notice and see that. So, good idea to practice that if you guys have lots of trees, or, you know, if your memory isn't that great. You know, just when you did what you did last, what was major, and simple reference point. So, anyhow, thanks for looking at this piece. I'm going to move on to the Shimpaku over here and just give you guys a quick, brief view of what that looks like, and our plans going forward with that tree. I'll be right back. Okay, so here you have it. This is one of a couple of the Shimpaku Junipers we picked up. I think it was 2 years ago. These are collected over in Oregon. and there was a Oregon bonsai enthusiast there that brought him over and was growing him in his yard for several years. I think he said he had them for about 10 years, and when he picked them up, they were probably 3 years old, 4 years old. And then both Keith and I, a buddy of mine, picked these up. And they were in some pretty good sized nursery pots, but they were so root bound, like literally when you would water them, the water would just run off the sides. It wouldn't penetrate into the soil. You could put a chopstick in down with the roots and push it down in there, and it would be bone dry. So you really had to soak them in either a 5-gallon bucket or our sinks to get water into them. So that first opportunity we did, we took them out, put them into these grow boxes with some real heavy grit. We're using a mix of akadama and cinder, and then even a little bit of pumice is in here. Keith is a fan of pumice for his grow out stuff. I'm personally not a fan because it makes a mess, but to each their own. I have no problem with it. I think that whatever you decide to use for your media, use what's best for you and what you're comfortable with, so I'm not going to get into the debate on that. But I believe that this is about a 50-50 mixture of akadama and grit. I tend to go more on the gritty side, and I'm sorry, it's not 50-50. It's a mix of akadama, grit, and a compost, a planter's mix. I tend to go a little bit more on the grit side when it comes to anything that's not deciduous, mainly, any of the Shimpakus, the junipers, green mounds. A lot of the pines seem to do very well in that. But again, it just depends on the region you're in and what you're comfortable with. So, you find out that mixture, look to your local club to give you ideas about what works for you. But these trees were beautiful. When we saw them, we picked them up right away and knew we had something great. It doesn't look like a whole lot here because it's in an ugly grow box, and it's just a slant style juniper. But there's a lot of potential because there's great nabari development. The root structures, after being pruned and cleaned up, are nice and shallow. I think from about here down the box is large, heavy grit, large particle, whereas the finer grit for our feeder roots is higher. These guys were more of a yellow color when we got them. They weren't the healthiest condition, but as you can see from the video, these guys are healthy, fresh buds, great new growth, really good ramification. Just overall excellent material to start with. My pieces and Keith's original piece here had some nice growth here. There was the sacrificial branch to get this to develop. Now, I think the original owner or stylist, grower, whatever you want to call them, may have attempted to want to use this as the sacrificial branch and have this piece that was here, which has now been removed, as you can see by the cut mark and the cut paste, as the original with the nabari, and have this be more of a shohin style tree. But after looking at the several pieces that we have, I think it made more sense for us to develop this, let this go. Keith did an air layer on this portion, which is growing nicely. If I can get him to bring his piece over, we'll make a video on that as well. But yeah, so as you see, there's some great nabari development, great opportunity for an oro here. And then, we have a blank slate or empty canvas for what we can do with this slant. Well, how I kind of envision this, and this is not my tree, so I'm not going to do any work on it, I've just been maintaining it for him, would be, some sort of primitive, either a slab planting or a primitive concrete pot like you've seen in some of my other videos. And then to probably gin a good portion of this off, cut it off, gin a good portion, some branch development down here, and then determine where you want your pads to be and have this be a much smaller tree. But again, you could do whatever you like with this, to some extent. So great possibility, good specimen, very healthy tree. And whatever Keith decides to do with his tree down the road, we'll do a video workshop on it and let you guys see how that turns out. So anyhow, yeah, that's this tree here. I'm going to go ahead and give you a little update on what's going on in my greenhouse, some of the development of some of the other trees that I've got. I do have an update on my maple that I wired, and you've seen that in one of my other videos. I'll give you a quick snapshot of it and how it looks. And then just another snapshot of maybe some of my other trees that are behind me here.